Hey, welcome to the briefing. What I'm going to cover with you today is this. Before you push the line, pick the first focus. I want to take this one onto the production floor because manufacturing pressure does not ask politely. It shows up on the board. It shows up in the scrap bin. It shows up in the downtime log. It shows up when quality has hold tags sitting on product that should already be moving. It shows up when maintenance is stretched across 3 lines, the schedule is still due, and the supervisor is standing there with fewer clean options than the report makes it look like. That is real floor pressure, not theory, not a leadership slogan. Real pressure. When output drops, the natural instinct is to push the line, push the pace, push the operator, push the changeover, push maintenance, push quality, push the next run, push the recovery plan. And I understand why that happens. The number is visible, the schedule is visible, the customer order is visible. The plant manager does not need a long explanation when the line is behind. The floor needs control. But listen, pushing the line is not the same as choosing the right focus. That difference matters. A line can be behind for several reasons at the same time. If the leader treats every one of those reasons like an equal priority, the floor gets pressure without sequence. Operators start adjusting by feel. Quality gets squeezed to clear faster. Maintenance gets pulled after the loss has already stacked up. Supervisors chase the board. Planning wants a recovery number. Everybody is moving, but the line may still lose the same time tomorrow. That is the warning sign. Motion is happening, but control is not holding. That is where focused assessment matters. Focused assessment helps a manufacturing leader choose the first point of concentrated attention. Not the only point, not the only issue that matters. The first point, the point that, if corrected, gives the operation more control across the rest of the floor. That is the move, not scattered pressure, not noise, not a motivational push, a clear first focus. This is not about ignoring output. Output matters, quality matters, safety matters, maintenance matters, material matters, labor matters, customer commitments matter. All of it matters. But not all of it can be the main effort at the same time. If everything receives the same pressure, the leader may create movement, but not stability. And on a production floor, stability is not a luxury. Stability is what lets speed mean something. I have seen enough operational pressure to respect this. The floor can look busy while the main loss point stays untouched. That is a hard lesson because nobody looks lazy. Nobody looks checked out. The supervisor is walking. The lead is talking. Operators are trying. Maintenance is responding. Quality is checking. Planning is asking for a recovery number. There is activity everywhere. But activity does not automatically mean the line is aimed at the right problem. Sometimes the floor is working hard around the loss instead of working directly against it. Let me give you a manufacturing situation. Renee is a production supervisor in a mid-sized food manufacturing plant. Her line packages ready to sell snack trays for regional grocery customers. This is not loose work. Lot control matters. Seal integrity matters. Date coding matters. Label accuracy matters. Case count matters. A weak seal, wrong label, or bad date code can turn a production issue into a customer issue fast. One miss on the floor can travel all the way into brand trust, customer claims, rework, and schedule disruption. So the line does not just need speed. It needs controlled speed. The plant is already running tight. Customer demand is up. The schedule has little room to absorb a bad start. Quality is watching the line closely because a recent complaint involved damaged seals. Maintenance has 2 mechanics covering multiple areas. Some operators are experienced, but 2 newer team members are still building confidence around changeover support. That is the operating picture before the shift even starts. The day is not broken yet, but it is already loaded. Over the last 2 weeks, Renee's line has missed its first hour output target several times. Scrap is higher early in the run. Quality is holding more trays for seal checks. Maintenance is getting called after the line has already lost time. The plant manager wants the problem corrected before the weekly production review. Now the loud issue is obvious. First hour output is low. That is what the board shows. That is what planning sees. That is what leadership asks about. And if the line starts behind, the rest of the shift begins in recovery. So the easy answer is to push the number. Start faster. Run faster. Put the strongest operator near the sealer. Ask quality to clear the early checks faster. Have maintenance stand closer during startup. Remind the team to follow the standard. Add overtime if volume does not recover. Each of those moves has a piece of logic in it. That is what makes this dangerous. Bad focus does not always look stupid. Sometimes bad focus sounds responsible. The question is not whether each move has logic. The question is which one deserves the first focus. That is where many manufacturing leaders get pulled into scattered pressure. They see output down, scrap up, quality holding, maintenance responding, operators adjusting, and the schedule tightening. So they try to touch everything. The floor gets 5 corrections at once. Run faster. Check more closely. Communicate sooner. Call maintenance earlier. Verify material. Watch the labeler. Reduce scrap. Protect the number. That sounds complete. It sounds like leadership, but if everything becomes first, nothing is first. And that is where the floor starts to feel the difference between leadership pressure and leadership control. Pressure says, fix all of this now. Control says this is the first point we are going to stabilize because this is where the loss begins. That is a very different message. The first one scatters the floor. The second one gives the floor a target. Renee does the better thing. She watches the next startup closely. Not just the total output, not just the board, not just who looks busy. She watches where the run starts losing control. That matters, because the board tells her what was missed, but the floor shows her where it started. The line is not losing most of its time during steady-state production. Once the run settles, the crew can hold a respectable pace. The real damage happens during the first 25 minutes after changeover. The sealer needs several adjustments before the seal is stable. The labeler drifts after the first trays move through. Quality holds early product because the setup does not look settled. Operators pause because they are not sure whether the issue is material, machine setting, or setup verification. Maintenance is not called until several short stops have already burned time. Now the story changes. The issue is not simply output, not really. It is not simply operator pace. It is not simply quality release. The first focus is startup stabilization after changeover. That is the turn in the story. That phrase matters because it gives the floor a sharper target. Startup stabilization after changeover is the weak point creating scrap, quality holds, operator hesitation, maintenance delay, and first hour output loss. The missed number is the result. The first focus is the condition creating the result. That is the discipline. Do not let the number alone choose the target. The number tells you there is a loss. It does not always tell you where the focus belongs. Think about what happens if Renee picks the wrong focus. If she focuses only on operator pace, the team may feel blamed for time lost before the run was stable. If she focuses only on overtime, the plant may recover volume today while leaving the startup issue alive for tomorrow. If she focuses only on quality release time, quality may feel pressured to move faster while the setup is still drifting. If she focuses only on maintenance response, mechanics may stay closer to the line but still arrive after the early loss has already built up. If she focuses only on the production number, the team may push harder and create more scrap. So what did she really fix? That is how the wrong focus gets expensive. It does not always fail loudly at first. It often fails by wearing the floor down. Operators feel accused. Quality feels pressured. Maintenance feels chased. Planning feels uncertain. The supervisor keeps explaining the same miss. The plant manager keeps hearing that recovery is underway, but the line keeps starting weak. That is the part leaders cannot ignore. If the same weak start keeps returning, the issue is not just urgency. The floor is telling you something. A line that keeps starting weak may have a startup discipline problem. It may have a changeover readiness problem. It may have a setup verification problem. It may have a material confirmation problem. It may have a signal problem between production, maintenance, and quality. The first focus has to be specific enough to create control. General pressure will not do it. General urgency will not do it. Run harder will not do it if the line is not stable enough to carry speed. So Renee chooses the first focus, startup stabilization after changeover. Now the questions get cleaner. Which setup checks must be confirmed before the first tray runs? Which film, label, tooling, and date code conditions must be verified before startup? When does quality need to be present? When does maintenance get called before short stops stack up? Which operator owns first run verification? What condition stops the line from entering production before it is stable? What does the next shift need to know about startup behavior? That is a better conversation than, we need to run harder. It gives each function a role in stabilizing the run before volume becomes the only focus. Production has a role. Quality has a role. Maintenance has a role. The lead has a role. The operator has a role. Planning gets a cleaner update. The supervisor gets a better control point. That is what a first focus does. It turns scattered pressure into coordinated effort. And listen, this does not remove accountability. If an operator skips a required check, that still matters. If a lead ignores a known drift, that still matters. If maintenance does not respond to a clear call, that still matters. If quality holds product without giving usable feedback, that still matters. Standards still matter. The difference is that the standard is now attached to the right point in the flow. That is one of the most important manufacturing leadership lessons in this briefing. Accountability has to land where control can actually be created. If the leader aims accountability at the wrong function, the floor starts protecting itself instead of stabilizing the line. Production says quality is slowing us down. Quality says production is trying to push unstable product. Maintenance says they were called too late. Operators say the setup was not ready. Planning says the schedule cannot keep absorbing missed starts. Everybody has a piece of the truth, but the line still needs a main effort. Focused assessment cuts through that by asking a direct question. Where does attention create the most control first? For Renee, it is not a plant-wide campaign. It is not 10 new checks. It is not a speech about urgency. It is startup stabilization after changeover. That is the point where several losses begin. That is the place to concentrate. If that focus improves, the connected pressure should change. First hour output should improve. Scrap should drop. Seal holds should reduce. Operator hesitation should decrease. Maintenance calls should happen earlier, or fewer emergency calls should be needed. Planning updates should become more reliable. Customer order risk should come down. That is how you know the focus has leverage. It improves more than one symptom. Now, if Renee applies that focus and nothing improves, she needs to reassess. Focused assessment is not stubbornness. It is disciplined concentration with adjustment. You choose the main effort, you watch the effect, you adjust based on what the floor gives back. If startup stabilization does not move the number, the loss may be elsewhere. Maybe the real issue is material variation. Maybe the sealer has a recurring mechanical fault. Maybe the line balance is wrong after changeover. Maybe the newer operators need more structured changeover support. The point is to focus, learn, and refine, not guess once and defend the guess forever. That is how a supervisor earns credibility. The team does not need random pressure. The team does not need a new emergency every hour. The team needs a leader who can read the floor, pick the right focus, and hold attention long enough to see whether it works. That kind of leader gives the floor something it can trust. There are warning signs when the focus is wrong. Every output miss becomes an effort problem. The same station keeps becoming the rescue point. Quality keeps catching the same defect after the run starts. Maintenance keeps arriving after loss has stacked up. The line recovers later but starts weak again the next day. Those are not just annoyances. Those are signals. They tell the leader the visible miss may not be the right first focus. That last one matters. A line that runs well after the first hour may not have a general pace problem. If the line stabilizes later, study the first part of the run. What is happening during setup? What is unclear at startup? What check is being done too late? What decision does the operator have to make without enough confidence? What condition is allowed into production before the line is ready to carry speed? Those are floor questions, practical questions, control questions, not motivational slogans. The floor does not need someone yelling pace when the issue is stability. The floor does not need another reminder to follow the standard if the standard does not define the moment where the loss begins. The floor does not need more recovery language if the process keeps allowing the same weak start. It needs the first focus. That is the point. Now, connect this to your own production environment. Maybe it is not a snack tray line. Maybe it is packaging, assembly, machining, printing, bottling, fabrication, kitting, inspection, or final pack-out. The pattern still applies, the number is down, the schedule is tight, a station is waiting, a quality hold is active, a machine is drifting, material is staged but not verified, operators are making judgment calls in the middle of motion. The supervisor feels the pull to push everyone harder. Before you push, pick the first focus. Ask where the loss begins. Ask where the same condition keeps showing up. Ask which point turns good labor into rework, scrap, waiting, adjustment, or explanation. Ask which focus, if improved first, would reduce the most downstream pressure. That is how you keep the production number from becoming the only voice in the decision. Because the number is a signal, not a full diagnosis, it tells you the line missed. It does not automatically tell you whether the miss came from pace, setup, material, machine stability, quality timing, maintenance response, operator training, or shift handoff. If the leader treats the number like the whole answer, the correction may go to the wrong place. That is where manufacturing leaders can lose the floor without realizing it. If operators keep getting told to push harder when the line is unstable, they stop trusting the read. If quality keeps getting pressured to release faster while defects are still showing up, quality starts defending its function. If maintenance keeps getting called after the same loss has already occurred, mechanics start feeling like they are chasing problems instead of preventing them. If planning keeps hearing, "We are recovering," but the same weak start returns, planning loses confidence in the update. A good focus protects more than the number. It protects trust between functions. It protects decision quality. It protects the handoff from one shift to the next. It protects the customer commitment by stopping the same loss from getting recycled. That is why this matters. The leader is not just chasing output. The leader is protecting the system that creates output. So here is the practical move for this week. Pick one production issue that keeps forcing recovery work. Name the visible miss first. The line started below target. Scrap rose in the first hour. Quality held early units. The machine short-stopped repeatedly. The changeover ran long. The schedule slipped. Name it without dressing it up. No story, no blame, just the miss. Then separate the miss from the focus. Where is the miss visible? Where might it have started earlier? Which team is absorbing the pressure? Which point keeps turning normal work into recovery work? That step keeps you from making the loudest number the automatic target, and that is where discipline starts. Then identify the first focus. Is it startup instability, changeover readiness, maintenance timing, material staging, quality hold timing, operator training, shift handoff, setup verification, standard work drift? Look for the issue underneath several visible problems. The first focus is often where multiple roles keep losing time. Then test the focus for leverage. Ask, if we improve this first, what else becomes easier to control? If the answer only touches one small symptom, the focus may be too narrow. If the answer reduces scrap, holds, short stops, operator hesitation, and output loss, the focus is probably stronger. That is the test. Does the focus create control beyond itself? Then hold the focus long enough to learn. Does first hour output improve? Does scrap drop? Do quality holds reduce? Do maintenance calls happen earlier? Does the line stabilize faster? Does the pressure move somewhere else? A focused leader watches the effect. They do not just announce the focus and walk away. They stay close enough to learn what the floor is actually telling them. That is the work. Choose the first focus, apply pressure, watch the floor, adjust with discipline. So let's close this out. Manufacturing will always create pressure around output. Schedules will run tight. Machines will drift. Materials will vary. Quality will hold the line. Customers will expect delivery. That will not change. The discipline is learning how to choose the first focus before the number chooses it for you. Do not just ask how to push harder. Ask where focused attention creates control. Read the floor. Find where the loss starts. Pick the first focus, then move with control. Thanks for listening to the briefing.